Peace.
Peace in the name of ABG Divine.
Okay, yeah. So add on, God, you here now. Why? What brings you to these parts? Well, actually, where you from? Let's go on where you from first.
From Inglewood, California. Born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. Got knowledge of self in 1988. That's when I got introduced to the knowledge.
Okay, so how did you get sparked?
God lived in my neighborhood named Ramel from the Oasis, from the desert. Which used to be called the desert, which is now called the Oasis. But yeah, God went to Inglewood High School with me my freshman year. And the God approached me because of a pair of sneakers I had on that he seen. And as soon as he opened his mouth, I knew where he was from. He had a heavy New York accent.
Right, okay. He was your age?
Yeah, actually he was 2 years older than me. He was a junior and I was a freshman. My freshman year at Inglewood High School. He's from Laurelton, Queens. And when he approached me, just the language, I was already into hip hop and everything, and he was saying things like, word is bond and things like that. Then he said, yo, you righteous? I had a little MCM pouch. Back in the day, he had a little pouches they wore around their neck. I had one on. He said, yo, you righteous? And when he said that, I didn't know. I was like, righteous?
What's that?
What's that? However, I had already been sparked by Rakim through hip hop. Heard, bless the mic with the gods and the little language. So when I heard it coming out of his mouth, I was like, oh, yo, he could clear up some of the things I've been hearing in the music. So, boom, we started a relationship right there. We bonded. And he used to come around to my crib ride a little BMX bike. He lived on Regent. I lived on Lime Street. So that's like 4 blocks away. He'd ride his bike over to my crib, sit in the crib with me and my little brother, and just tell me about Queens and tell me about how he got knowledge of self. And I asked him what word does bond mean, and
okay.
When you said righteous, when you asked what was I righteous, what that mean? And he was like, well, if what I mean is, do you have knowledge of self? I'm like, yo, what's knowledge of self? So now every question I'm asking him, God, he was answering.
Right.
So that's how he drew me in and get more. But only thing he gave me, God, was supreme mathematics and supreme alphabets.
Okay.
No student enrollment. Because we had almost 2 years together.
Okay.
Because after he graduated, he ended up coming back to Malwai and got in a motorcycle accident. So he didn't come back to Cali. But what he gave me during that 2-year span, I kept that. So I would just build with supreme mathematics and supreme alphabets.
But did you hear at that time the black man is God?
Yes, I did.
You heard it from him or heard it from you?
Him.
From him.
From him.
Okay. Now, what was your response to that? Like, what did you think?
This is what I was looking for.
Right. Okay. So, but your family, were they Christian or?
Okay, my family, when my mom was a baby, around the time, my mom was maybe like 9 years old around the time Malcolm was assassinated. My family used to be a part of the Nation of Islam. Now my mom's mom and dad, my grandfather and grandmother, on my mom's side, by way of my grandfather, he was the knowledge seed, black seed of the family. He was into that militant shit. Also managing little R&B groups on the side. So he had the family into that. He had the family into that realm right there. However, when Malcolm was assassinated, you know how some people blame the Nation of Islam.
Right.
Some people.
Well, that's interesting because a lot of people became Sunni Muslims after that. Exactly. They left those teachings and became.
And my grandfather was the one that wasn't with that.
He wasn't with the
He just stepped away.
Okay.
He stepped away totally. He was no longer going to the mosque or no longer involved with the NOI.
Did he retain any of that knowledge though?
Now, he passed. He went back to his essence when I was God years young. So I had very little time with him. But the conversations that I did have with him, it was more about, staying in school, education. discipline, things like that. It was never nothing, you know, raunchy or nothing like that. He was the one, just 3 words in a sentence, go to school.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't really, I didn't get the history of NOI from him. I got that knowledge from my old earth.
Okay.
As I got older. Once I started to get knowledge, once I got introduced to the knowledge, I was in the house teaching my baby brother. So my old earth heard me one day. Oh, let me tell you this. One day I threw the bacon out. Because the guard Ramel used to come to my crib.
Right.
We'd be in there making sandwiches or whatnot. He'd stand in the kitchen over us, God. Stand over us. Now, Cypher, what's that? No, God, you can't eat that. Telling my little brother, no, you better not be eating no swine. We in there eating bacon and egg sandwiches. And the guard Ramel was like, nah, you got to get that out of here, God.
Right. And your old earth recognized that.
My step-pops came home and said, yo, who the fuck threw the bacon in the trash? It was still in the trash can in the house.
Okay, so it was your step-pops that introduced those teachings.
He told my old earth, who the fuck threw the bacon in the trash? She came to me. Who the fuck threw the bacon in the trash? Oh, well, I threw that in there because we can't eat that no more. Almost got killed over that, God.
As many of us did.
My step-pops, he was tight about that. Now, moving on. Once I started to, not eat swine, my old earth is hearing these things I'm saying around the house. I even told her, I'm God. I couldn't even show and prove it, God,
right.
at the time.
But you manifesting this thing.
I told her I'm God. And you know what she told me? You right.
Peace.
Word is bond, God. That's what she told me.
You right. Peace.
You right. And I'm looking for an argument when I said it, because I'm used to everybody saying, yo, what you talking about? This nigga crazy. He say he God. Because all my friends is gang banging around the way as I'm growing up. So I'm the one that's standing out like a sore thumb in South Central talking about the black man is God. We far and few in between out there, God. I ain't the only. There's a lot of us out there, but we the minority.
Right.
So to hear my old earth say that and her be the first one to actually agree and side with me.
Being your old earth and the first one to agree with you.
She the first one to agree with me. You right. Nobody else said that, God. And when she said that, it took I'm ready for the argument, for the confrontation. Like I normally got to face.
Right.
When she agreed, it threw me off, and I was like, okay, now I can ask her questions, because maybe she knows something.
Right. Okay.
And that's how I got the NOI history.
Okay.
From her.
What was her NOI history?
She was a baby when
Malcolm returned. So you say your grandfather was the one who was a part of the nation.
He had his wife and his children.
Right, your grandfather.
Exactly. He had his children, which my mom was one of 8.
Right.
8 siblings. She was one of the babies, one of the youngest of the 8 at the time. She was like 7, 8, 9 around that time, right before Malcolm went back to his essence.
Okay.
So she was giving me the history of her childhood, the things she saw, the things she heard about the NOI and Elijah Muhammad and things like that. So I started introducing her to the books that I was reading, How to Eat to Live.
Oh wow, okay.
Not Making of the Black, it's Message to the Black Man by Elijah Muhammad.
Indeed, right.
Because my stepbrother was reading these books. He was conscious. He didn't have knowledge himself.
But
he was on that the book, the more, not 120, but he had like all his book smarts.
Okay, right.
History books, the speeches of Malcolm X and his speeches. He tried to hand me that book one time. So
he had all this literature, and you was able to benefit from it because you was starting getting the knowledge from your man.
Because now he see me blossoming as far as knowledge. He see me searching and seeking out things. So now he passing me stuff more. When before he like watching me, and he was more into sports because my stepbrother lived in Compton. I was in Inglewood. But we would see each other, he'd come over weekends, things like that, and he'd see like a difference in me. Like yo, what's this you reading? What's this you studying? What's this you talking about? Because now he see me with Ramel. We used to hang out. My stepbrother would be with me, him, and Ramel, so he'd hear Ramel's language too.
Okay.
So he was getting a little bit of that. Right. That made him familiar with what I was doing. And he was the only one, God, that encouraged me. Everybody else, friends, family, him and my old earth were the only two. It was like, yeah, keep going.
stepbrother and your
my older stepbrother and my stepbrother's 4 years older than me.
Okay.
So when he was going to Long Beach State, this was around the time I met Ramel. I was a freshman in high school. He was a freshman in college.
Mm-hmm.
So he used to take me and Ramel to these college parties at Long Beach State. So that's when he started getting familiar with what Ramel was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Learning his attribute and learning stuff about Laurelton, Queens, and the Guards and the Oasis and
Right. So
Merritt Boulevard.
He sparked himself.
However, he never knowledged 120. He never went through no degrees or nothing like that, but that made him...
I mean, he didn't study any degrees, or he didn't knowledge? He left the degrees alone.
He never picked up or received the knowledge. Okay. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Because Ramel was more my friend.
Okay.
And I would be with my brother and just bring Ramel along. So when we got to these college parties, my brother would go off on his thing and me and Ramel would be together. So I was the one soaking more of it up.
Okay, right.
And my brother wasn't really trying to have me teach him because he's older than me. You know what I'm saying?
And he's older than Ramel too.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So he was more like, here, y'all two stay together. I'm gonna be over here.
Right.
But when he hear me and Ramel building, he'd be like, yeah. He liked that because he felt he had it already by what he was learning in his history.
Right. I got you.
You see what I'm saying?
Right,
and plus, he's older than us.
Right.
He was we were a little younger and a little more street smart, where he had a lot of book smarts.
Right. He's like, I got that already. I know what y'all talking about.
By him reading Destruction of Black Civilization and all these books, he felt he knew what we were studying or what we were dealing with when he didn't.
Right.
So that's how that went. However, he would still pass me these books, which became plus lessons for me. Because even though I didn't read them at that time, once I got 120, I went back to those books that he tried to pass me back then. You see what I'm saying? And I just added that to my studies. I didn't know a lot of history.
Okay. Right.
Now I knew the history that I was learning in 120. Those lessons as far as...
So when you started getting 120 at?
I started getting actually I got the 1 to 10 and I got Supreme Mathematics
from Ramel.
From Ramel and Supreme Alphabet. I didn't get the 1 to 10 until 1992, summer of 92.
Okay, this is like...
This is 2 years after I read Ramel.
Okay, 2 years, okay.
No, this is 4 years par itself because I met him in 88. So 4 years later, I ended up meeting this guy, Kyrie, from Webster Projects.
Okay, and this is all on the West Coast?
All on the West Coast. And I met him on my born day, 1992, because he had a mutual friend who had the same birthday as me. And we were at the same party. Met him, and he didn't have a place to stay at the time, God. And I met him at the party and found he had knowledge himself, and he quoting all these things that I only heard from Ramel.
Right.
So, boom. Peace, God. Right. He looked at me, peace, where you from? I'm from Inglewood. He's like, what's your name? My name Devon. That's all. I ain't even have a law part of my name. I was just Devon.
And Ramel was at the pitch at the time.
Yeah, Ramel back in New York. He already had his motorcycle accident and everything. He been gone like 2 years.
Okay, right.
So I'm 18 at the time. Met the guy, Kyrie, who's the same age as me from Webster Projects. Been out in New York not even a year ago. I've been out of New York not even a year in Cali. So now we connect. He didn't even have a place to live. He was staying with somebody else. I took him to my old Earth house, God. He was living with me. My old Earth had moved from Inglewood to Paramount, which is like the outskirts of Compton.
Okay.
On McClure Avenue. So he was staying with us, God. That's how I got the 1 to 10. That's how I actually got into the degrees.
Okay, right. From the student enrollment to...
I only got the student enrollment from him. So I had Supreme Alphabets, Supreme Mathematics, Supreme Alphabets, and the 1 to 10.
Okay.
And he took forever to get me that.
Okay, he took forever to give you the 1 to 10.
Yeah, because now he knew I knew the language. I knew how to use the Supreme Mathematics, tell him how I see today's mathematics, We could go through that all day. However, when he said who was the original man, I couldn't tell him that. As far as how the degree
went, right.
You see what I'm saying? I couldn't do that.
Right, okay.
So when he introduced me to that, I had already heard it from Ramel. Because Ramel would say things and wouldn't say nothing else until I asked him a question. Like he may say something out of a lesson, or it went and coincided with today's degree or today's mathematics, and it would go over my head. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
And I'd be like, what did he just say? I knew some of it, but all of it I didn't know. Now, when I'm with Kyrie, those things I had stored from Ramel would come back up because he would say them too.
Right. Everything's familiar.
So now I'm like, okay, this is repetition because I never knew any order of any degrees or nothing. Now, being that I know 120, now I know who was the original man. The original man's the Asiatic black man, Jamaica, the owner, the cream of the planet, Earth, father, civilization, God of the universe. Asked me that in 92, I would have just said the black man is God.
Right.
Who is the original man? Okay, the original man is the black man is God, but I couldn't give you that degree verbatim.
Right.
Now with Kyrie, I was starting to learn, no, everything is in order. This the same way you got supreme mathematics and same way you got supreme alphabets, we got 120 lessons.
Right.
God Ramel never even mentioned what 120 was. I never heard 120 come out of his mouth.
But he still would build on who the original man was.
He would build from degrees from 120, but he would never say, this is 120.
Okay.
And looking back, I know why he did that. Because he seen how eager I was just to get more. Every time he'd say something, I would sit there and ask him a question in order to get him to build. Because he wasn't the type to just build. You got to ask him something. But he threw enough out there to spark you.
Right.
Because he knew I didn't know it. So if he said something and I'd be like, he'd see me computing and I'd go like, what you mean, God? What's that? Why did you say it like that?
Right.
And then he'd break it down to me. But I never heard him say, this is the knowledge degree of 120. This is the first degree. Who was the original man?
Right.
He just started giving it to me out of his mouth, piece by piece. He'd jump all over 120.
Okay. Right, but just giving it to you, just how
He knew 120, God. Because later on in the years, once I started getting the degrees, I would reflect back on conversations with Ramel.
Okay.
And I said, yo, this is what he was talking about.
So you haven't seen him since?
I haven't seen him since 1990, God.
Since 1990.
When he left Cali, I got word from a mutual friend that went to high school with us, another New Yorker who was there with us. This is who Ramel was basically with before he met me.
Right.
A guy named Ant Lover, who was from the Bronx. And he told me that Ramel had came back after one school year and got into a motorcycle accident. And he didn't die, he was still alive, but nobody had heard from him, nothing after that.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, he's from Laurelton, Queens, a guy named Ramel. He used to give me this history on all of these different crews out of Queens. I remember he told me about this crew called Boom Bash. He used to always talk about this crew called Boom Bash out of Jamaica, Queens or something. He used to talk about the Coliseum and all of these spots. That's how he drew me in, because now he was tying that into supreme mathematics, supreme alphabets. Peace. And he would say things like, God, do the knowledge, just things like just certain little phrases, do the knowledge, or I'm gonna make knowledge born to you right now. And I say, wait, what?
Right.
You gonna do what? You gonna
what's that?
It's just how and how it flowed. It was like, yo, do the knowledge, God. And I used to be like, do what?
That's how people hear. Actually, that's when I was getting it, and I would hear the guard like, yo, do the knowledge, like, do the knowledge. Like, how do you? Why is the words go like that? Like,
and that's the questions I was asking them. Because I'm thinking knowledge ain't something you do. This is what I'm thinking when you're young.
Right.
When I'm young, I'm thinking do the knowledge, but knowledge is what's knowledge. So I started asking myself, what's knowledge?
That's the spark right there. Right.
Looking back, it's like that's how the God was sparking me. It's like he was making me ask myself the question before I asked him.
Right.
So I was coming with my own answers without him giving me the answer. You follow me, God?
Right.
So it was a wild time for me, God, because all I knew was gangbanging. Even though I wasn't a gangbanger, this is all I seen outside my doors. This is the culture I grew up around. You wear a blue hat on the wrong side of town, you was gonna get shot up, jumped, ran out the neighborhood, you get bodied.
Right.
So to get all of that and hear that, it took my mind a totally different way.
This is at the age of knowledge culture.
Knowledge culture. That's when it started.
And this is because that's our age where you're real impressionable, and you could go in the direction of the gangs right before you could go get into the gangs, or
right, exactly.
You know, take another path, whatever other path you may be choosing.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So that was like the right time.
And let me tell you something, God. I had an abundance of influence in terms of potential influence to be in a gang. It's like our family, God.
This is your family.
Immediate family.
So this is like a real culture. The gang life is a real culture in that world, and it's a family thing too now.
And that's what I was just about to tell you, God. At least 80% of my friends got into gang banging because of their family, God. Not just because they went outside and got recruited. No, they were raised in it, God. I got personal friends, God, that slept in my mom's house, ate my mom's food. I did that at their house, ate their mom's food. They were born and bred to be gangbangers, God.
Born and bred.
Literally, God. They parents
was gangbangers.
Are OGs. So when they born,
they brought up and this is it.
That way of life is introduced to them then, God. They go into elementary school saying they sets.
Elementary school.
God, I had friends in the 3rd grade that used to come to class and throw the signs up and bang on me in the class.
Holy shit. Wow.
Grape Street, Watts, woo woo, and 8 years old, God.
Imagine that.
Personal friends of mine that I played on the yard and recess with. We go to the liquor store and play Pac-Man together. They was 8 years old. We the same age.
So what was it in about this that made you say, I'm gonna stick with this, as opposed to going that way? Because you got your family, you got your friends, you got your all your peers is basically the counterculture. What was it about this that made you say, I'm gonna stay with this, as opposed to that? Was it that you had those OGs that like Kyrie or something like that, or
well, he was part of it. Definitely, Kyrie was definitely part of it.
Ramel, like, you know what I mean?
I'm gonna tell you what it was, God. Around the same time I met Ramel, actually about 6 months later, because I met him the fall of '88. Summer of '89, I met Angry God. Angry God. Angry God is from Harlem.
Okay, that's an interesting name.
Yeah, and that's another story. just the name alone is another story. But yeah, I met him and his cousin, Superior, rest in peace. Superior is from New Rochelle, from Now Rule. They were just hanging out in Inglewood, God. Superior's pops lived on Hillcrest, a block away from me. So I met them just hanging out in Inglewood. They went back to New York after that summer. I lost touch with them for a whole year. They come back the following summer. Now we exchange a number because they back in Inglewood, right? Now, we keep in touch. That year, 1990, after Ramel moved back and got in his accident, I came to Now Y for the first time. 1990, December 1990. This was like a few days after Christmas. So once I came to New York with the little bit of knowledge that I had, coming here, met some guards here, from Now Rule, from Mecca, from the Oasis, from Medina. I started meeting guards, and the little bit that I knew, I was able to communicate and build with these guards. So now I'm able to use what I was getting these past couple years back in Cali, because I would use it here and there just a little bit with Kyrie and Ramel. Now I'm meeting other people, other guards that got it. It's my age.
Did Kyrie give you the whole 1 to 10?
He gave it to me out of his mouth, verbatim, God.
Okay, so who's the original man? Then who's
and I had to sit there and listen
and
repeat it after him.
Okay, so you never wrote it down, basically, yourself.
Not until years later, I wrote it from my mind.
Peace.
But I got it from him verbatim, sitting there behind the apartments where he was living with me and my old earth and my brothers. And we sit back there and he smoked those beady cigarettes.
The beadies, the Indian cigarettes.
He used to love beadies. He smoked beadies. And he sit there and just go through it a million times, God. And he'd smoke a whole pack of beadies.
I remember the beadies, man.
He got me smoking beadies too, for being around him so much and building. So yeah, God, that's how I went through 1 to 10. He smoked them beadies and he just repeat the degree. Okay, now you go. And when I mess up, he say, no, listen to me. I'm gonna do it again. All right, now say it with me. And he'll say it slow. And I'll be like, who is the original man? The original man is, following the cadence. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To where eventually, me and him saying it together, and now he's listening to me saying it. That's how I got it. Okay. And that's all I had up until 1996.
Wow, so these are
I'm
long time.
I'm getting it over like years. So, like I'm getting this piece here and this
Supreme Rapper Marriage from 88 to 92. Then you get the 1 to 10. 92. And you don't get anything more until
1996.
96. Like 4 years span. 4 years. Wow.
That's all I had, God.
Wow.
And I ended up going to the feds in 1995. So I got everything else from the guards in the federal prison.
Okay.
That's where I got the rest of 120 in the federal prison.
Okay.
I went in 1995. I didn't meet no guards until 1996.
Okay.
Once I got, processed and got my time and I'm in the pen in the system, doing my bid, now I'm meeting other guys. Because when you get to the pen, it's like as soon as you get there, people approaching you. When you in the system in the federal, I don't know how the state is, I've never been in the state, but in the federal system, once you hit the yard, somebody's gonna approach you. Once you walk in that unit and you got your bedroll under your arm, somebody gonna walk up to you, yo, where you from? Peace. Somebody's coming to see who you are.
Okay.
So the first person to approach me was a guard named Asiatic Law from Asbury Park. It's the first guard I met in the system. Militant, knowledge seed. I'm talking about big scar on his face like he was in a war, guard. He had the buck 50, the keloid scar, knowledge seed. Peace, guard. Where you from, guard? You got knowledge of self, guard?
How did he detect that?
He was just approaching everybody that came in, because it was like I want to say 11, 12 of us that came in this particular unit at the time. And like 5 or 6 people stepped up, like from different cars. A car is a neighborhood or a city or whatever. That's what they call it, a car. What car are you with? Who you with? Whether it's a gang, a city crew, or whatever it is, somebody's going to approach you. So as these people were approaching the 11, 12 people coming in his unit, he was one of the people. He didn't look directly at me. He just looking at everybody. Yo, who got knowledge of self here? That's what the guard said. I said, peace, guard. He said, peace, guard. Who you be? Walked right up on me, because I was the only one that said peace out of the little group. He said, peace, guard. Who you be? Where you from? I said, peace, guard. I'm Devon. I'm from the West Coast. He looked, West Coast, what you doing out here? I'm in the feds in Jersey. I'm in a Jersey pen. What you doing out here, God? You knowledge 120? Now I know the language now. I know what 120 is.
You don't have knowledge yet.
I don't have 120.
Right.
We say, well, what degree you dealing with, God? From there, I tell you, I only know the 1 to 10. After that, he said, oh, okay, God, well, what's this degree? He wanted to know, make sure I knew it.
Okay.
What's this degree? What's that degree? And he like, okay, yeah, I see you know it. Okay, God, what's other guards here too? I'm gonna introduce you to him and woo. Once he did the knowledge and seen everything was bees, now he introduced me to these other guards, and now I'm walking the track with him.
You got to the feds how?
I got to the feds. I went to the feds for armed bank robbery. 6 armed bank robberies. I went in December 20th of 1995. The last bank robbery was December 7th of 1995. So he got caught leaving. We were in 2 different cars. It was 3 of us. Me and one of my co-defendants was in my car, and this particular guy was in his car by himself. All he had was a gun. We had the money with us and the guns that we had.
They had them with some joints, the money joints that.
What we used to do, well, not every robbery, but most of our robberies, we would just clear the tellers out.
So I wasn't going into the safes.
We did, but not every robbery. Not every one,
Right.
because Hollywood paints this picture like this is how robbery is. People that don't know, they look at this as, okay, bank robberies, you got to go in there yelling and you got to lay everybody down. No, you don't. You can go in there and say, hey, I got a gun, get down. They are trained to follow what you say. So whether you yell it or whisper it, they're gonna comply. I learned that later once I got into the feds, once I started studying the law. But dog, we went in there laying them down.
Get out, get out.
We went in there yelling, God.
Okay.
Because we young.
Right. And you said at this time,
I was 21.
21. What made you what in your mind made you want to do that though? Like, what convinced you though? Like,
I'm gonna give it to you like I tell everybody, God. The money.
The money. At 21.
That's what made me do it. The money. That's where the money at, God.
Money will drive you to do some real interesting things.
Especially when you're in tough situations and you need that money.
Right.
Even more so, you're gonna do something to get that money.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? That's how that was. So, yeah,
So
God.
you got to the feds, and you went into the guard, and
Asiatic.
and he examined you first,
Indeed.
and then
Me and
brought
him,
you around.
we walking the track on the yard, and at this particular time, I was in Farrington, FCI Farrington, New Jersey, and they was doing the parliaments on the yard. We was having rallies. They was doing everything, God. Now, every guard wouldn't participate, but most of the guards that was there to do their lessons was there.
So you saying there was guards in there that didn't know their lessons?
It was guards in there that was running, guards in there that was hiding. Yeah, because they knew, like, especially the guard Asiatic was one of them guards that was definitely, when you seen him, you was gonna duck him if you didn't know your lessons, because you knew that's all he dealt with. He talks from the lessons. You feel me, God? He's one of those guys. As soon as you see him, he's like, yo, peace, God, how you see the day's degree? So, or he'll ask you, yo, he know you studying the degrees, and okay, God, what degree you want? Let me hear that degree. He was one of those guys. He knew you was studying. He wanted to make sure that you was adding on. So if you didn't know, you was ducking Asiatic. Me, every day I was going to look for Asiatic. Because that's how I was getting sharper. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what he loved to do. He loved to build. But he was one of them guards you didn't play with. You know what I'm saying? He see you playing with the lessons, it was going
It's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, you couldn't use it for devilishment, God. If you doing something that's other than what you claiming,
This.
now don't let him find out.
Right. So you got afterwards you got the 136 or
What? No. Now that's where the discrepancies came in my travels, dog. Because after the 1 to 10, I got the 1 to 36, and I got the 1 to 14, then the 1 to 40, then the solar fact. Actual, you know what I'm saying? Actual facts, solar facts. That's how I got it in that order.
That's how I got it in that order, right?
However, throughout my travels, I met guards that said that they got
The 114 first.
after 1 to 10.
Right. I've heard that.
I've met just as many guards on both sides. I say it's 50-50.
Right. Yeah. Actually, you know, I came across where brothers said that they got the 1 to 36 last.
I ain't never heard that.
Never heard that.
Never. You talking about after the actual facts and solar facts? Then they got the 1 to 30? I never heard that.
Yeah.
That's the first time I ever heard that, God.
Yeah.
Only what I've always heard.
Somebody, I think, my mouth says they have it right after the 140. The 1 to 36 after the 140.
So
So it'd be like Supreme Mathematics alphabets, student enrollment, 1 to 14, 1 to 40,
then the 1 to 36,
36,
then the actual facts and solar facts. Yeah, that's the first time I ever heard that, God.
Yeah, you know, and that's like, you know, when it gets to the question, does this have anything to do with the above question? Right? Question number 10.
Right.
Right, but see, but in the 1 to 36, the above question is not, number 10 is not a question.
Right.
See what I'm saying? So you could be looking at that, the above question would be, who is that mystery God? Is it coming
in that order? Yeah.
Coming in that order.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or, you know what I'm saying?
It's now through the knowledge of this, pardon me for cutting your wisdom, through the knowledge of this, I got the 1 to 36, and then I got the 1 to 14.
Right.
When
That's how
okay,
I
so
right.
when that degree came up, does that have anything to do with the above question number 10?
Right.
I went to the student enrollment.
Right. What is the set birth record of nations?
Because I got the 1 to 10 before the 1 to 36.
Yeah. What is the birth record of said nations of it?
Exactly. So when I got to that degree in the 1 to 36, I would go what the 10th degree was before that section.
Right.
Before the 1 to 36, because I got the student enrollment, then the 1 to 36. However, when you do it in the order
you talk about like
then it goes to that question.
As I'm building, because I said through my travels, because I originally got it. I got knowledge. I got walked through 120 in law school of Mecca.
Okay.
By the guard doctor.
Okay, yeah, I met the guard a few times.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's how. You see, I was originally sparked in Medina.
Okay.
Through my physical, right?
Okay.
My physical took me to my first rally in Born Culture, and right afterward, he got stabbed up and was put in coma. You know what I'm saying? And at the time, I only had I had Supreme Mathematics and Alphabets, and I wound up getting his book of life, and I went to law school in Mecca, and the guard, I was just built with the guard. I go up there like. That's how I had the whole 120, and I would just go through it like, all right, you know, and in his book of life, my physical book of life, there was 1 to 10, the 1 to 36, and 1 to 14. So I would, after I had, you know, I acknowledged my Supreme Mathematics and alphabets, I went and I studied my 1 to 10, I went and built the guard, and God was like, okay, you can move on. Had my 1 to 36, came and built with the God said, okay, peace, God. Move on. And that's how I wanted it. Like I could have just had it in my drawer, and I could have just been like, yeah, I got the whole 120.
Yeah, and just sat on it. Like, yeah, I got the gold.
I got the gold, but no, I wanted to actually go through it. And I knew I wanted that pen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I went through all that. And see, the God didn't have pens, so I went and got the pen from Colleen. You know what I'm saying? And he made me quote the Wisdom Nas degree. The Wisdom God of 140. I'm saying, who's the founder of Unlike a Track, Unlike a Track, they like the power.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And what was the place with
Devil
manufactured? So I went through those degrees, and I remember I was real nervous, and I finished the degree, and he just threw the pen on the table, like, boom.
Peace.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
he said he did it with a straight face, just looking at me like. He wasn't gonna tell me if I was messing up or not. He just let me know, like, continue. Okay, and then we threw that pen. I was like, yeah, I got it. You know what I'm saying?
Peace.
But yeah, but that's how, you know, like I had it in that awkward thing. Like I said, through my travels, I started to see the brothers had it differently.
Right.
They had the 1 to 36 after
here.
the 1 to 14.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, when building with certain guards, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times they gave it. In the beginning, they gave that beforehand, before the 1 to 14, because it was like, it's easier to memorize.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, you know, travel, you know, my travels like you, I saw different brothers have it. And it wasn't until recently that I started hearing brothers say that the 1 to 36 came after the 1 to 40.
Yeah, and see, I was hearing this in like Born Bill. I was in FCI Farrington in New Jersey for like 2.5 years. So during that 2.5 years, there was a lot of guards from different places in that prison. So older guards, young guards. So it was from different time for different eras of this. You know what I'm saying? So I was meeting gods in that particular time in that religion that said, now some God, it's this order. And then other gods said, oh no, it's this order. It's 1 to 10 and the 1 to 36. And then I was meeting God the next day, another God that said it was
it's this way. And then but gods would ask you like, you know, what's the understand the cipher degree in 120?
Right. And I learned that.
Right.
I learned that because now it's like, okay,
what order do you have it in?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
because it could be out of position.
Right.
Depending on the order you got it in. That if you're just going by the degree it is in 120.
Right.
It's it could possibly be misplaced because yours is this.
It's this way. Right.
And the same thing with power refinement.
Yeah, that was another one. God.
And I didn't bump into that problem until I went to the Feds, God. When it was just a heavy concentration of gods in one spot. Because it was like close to 100 of us on this one particular prison yard at that time. Like a little over 100 of us. And 80 of us would be together at one given time at a rally out on the yard. Well, we'd have to play it off because you couldn't really congregate like that. We had to be culture of us right here, understanding of us right here, but we in the proximity of each other. You see what I'm saying? And I was meeting gods that had power refinement, and then this God never had refinement, and these gods is arguing over it, and it was causing a rift amongst the gods in where we was at. Just that little cipher. You see what I'm saying? So I was like,
I said, now I know the history that I got is, cause I got power refinement originally.
Me too.
Right, I got power refinement. And I respect power refinement.
Me too. And I just respect power too.
Right. Now see, when brothers say like power is the truth and you can't refine the truth, I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Me too.
But then when you're dealing with the application of the truth, this is where you're gonna have to learn how to deal with, how to say things and how to manifest things, and that's because the refinement is actually wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the breakdown to freedom and purity. So you gotta be wise and know how to break it down, how to clean yourself. Like, that's what refinement is cleaning yourself up.
Me and the God Ramel had a discussion about that when he was giving me Supreme Mathematics.
Okay.
And what he said
this
was
is early on.
This is in 1988 when he was giving it to me, the fall of 1988, my freshman year. When he was giving me Supreme Mathematics, he said one thing about power and one thing about refinement. And what he said was power is the truth, refinement is the proof.
Okay.
That's what he said. So from that, power is the truth, refinement is the proof.
So you're gonna use your power.
Like how refine. What did you just say, God? You said refinement is like wisdom.
Right.
So
being wise.
Your proof would be your wise words or your wise actions to show and prove the truth, right? So when he said that, I didn't have that understanding of it because he didn't give me that understanding. That's what he wanted me to remember.
And you kept it in mind when you
as I'm
walking with it.
Thank you.
Right.
It started to make more sense to me. Power, the truth, refinement is the proof. So now as I'm growing in it and getting my own, doing the knowledge to it and adding my own understanding of what power is and what refinement is, it's connecting to that because now I can see how that connects because power, the truth, how am I going to show it? Through my ways and actions. And my ways and actions, they should be refined.
Right.
And to be a good orator, you got to have good speech.
Right.
That's refinement, God.
Right.
I didn't look at it necessarily as making the truth better or how they say, oh, you can't refine the truth.
Right.
I understand that argument.
Yeah, and I respect it too.
And I do too.
Yeah.
I definitely do. But the way that I got that, the Supreme Mathematics and the way that power refinement was introduced to me, I hold on to that, God. But the gods that I came across that just say power, that's peace too. I'm in agreement with that. I have no discrepancies with that, God. And they don't always agree with how I see it or how you see it.
Right.
we agree to
I mean,
disagree.
Well, I mean, right. Because I, at the same time, too, God, like, you don't want to have refinement with your power.
You don't have to. I don't force this on
Right,
nobody.
right,
I'm the
right.
God of me.
Right.
I'm not the God
Right.
of you or the next person. I'm the God of me.
Right. Now there's a degree where Universal Shamgar builds on it, you know, and I, you know, and I respect it. I respect Universal Shamgar. That's, you know, I never met Universal Shamgar. You know what I'm saying? If I'm not mistaken, he returned and built in standing. No, pardon me, not building standing. Bill God.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? 87. You know, but you know, he was saying, and his explanation is that that's not what the Father gave. You know what I'm saying? Okay, peace. You know what I'm saying? The brothers added that on later on. Said, I understand the history of it.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, you know, I also understand that you're gonna need to clean yourself up. I know the power of refinement.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
I agree with that. I'm in definitely agreement with that. Because look at what a lot of us come from. And then we learn this. We go through a lot of crazy ciphers growing up. A lot of us went through a lot of ill shit growing up.
Yeah, right.
So a lot of us need refinement, God. Need to clean ourselves up.
Right.
I'm talking about even once you are learning the truth, God. A lot of us still need to, you know what I mean?
You know, and that's interesting that you say that too, because then that's another one of the nuances you may come across, or you may have already come across when dealing with the non-God degree. You know what I'm saying? You know, one having knowledge, really understand culture, refinement, and not establishing.
What is the meaning of civilization?
Right. So, you know, when refinement is dealing with, you know, civilization is dealing with culture. So brothers, you know, say that culture, you know, you have refinement with your culture before you have.
I've heard that.
You get what I'm saying? So, you know, we could play these word games, go back and forth. You know,
I don't get caught up into that, God.
Yeah, I try not. But see, sometimes, you know, it's I like to hear where brothers coming from.
I definitely want to hear where they coming from.
Right.
But I'm not doing that too.
Hit that back. He ran over that rat with his bike.
What was it?
It was a rat going across, and he just hit the rat.
Wow.
Yeah. I might have caught that on camera.
That's crazy.
I might have caught that on camera though. That was.
I didn't even see that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Pardon me, God.
Yeah, God. That's how I look at it. I want to hear what the next God got to say about that. Definitely. And I'm in agreement with that. You know, with the power and the refinement, or just the power. Okay, I'm in agreement. I'm not here to get caught up in that debate and argument.
Because a lot of times it's divisive.
Yeah,
amongst us.
And that's why I don't get caught up in it.
Yeah, we don't want it to be divisive.
I'm looking to smooth that out with anybody that's
bring
trying
the
to be.
seeds together.
Exactly. Let's bring the seeds together. I'm not here to, you know, be separated from you because you say power and not power refinement. We can find something, a common ground on that.
Right.
And that's understanding.
Right. That's the best part.
That's the best part.
That's the best part.
So yeah. But to answer your question earlier, God, you said what made me want to stick with this way of life. It was because of friends, close friends that I was growing up with get killed, God. It was that and a combination of what I was witnessing within myself. Because in 1992, once I started getting the 1 to 10, building with the God Kyrie, I'm meeting more gods now. I'm going to New York now because I told you I was coming out here in 1990. And my sole purpose for coming out here was to go to a law school.
That's the sole purpose.
That was my sole purpose because once I found out that Angry God, who I met in Inglewood in 1989, once I found out that he lived in Harlem, in Mecca, Ramel had already told me that a law school was in Mecca, in Harlem.
Right.
So I told Angry God on the phone after he had left Cali, after that summer, because they would just come for like 2-3 weeks during the summer every year, come back to me. Now why? I called him and said, yo, I want to get a ticket to come out there. Your mama let me stay with you? So Irv said, yeah, he can come out, stay. Next thing you know, I was on a plane December 1990, God, and came to Now Y for the first time, staying in Colonial Projects on 159th and 8th Avenue on Harlem River Drive, building 26. So the next day, we floating around Harlem, and the guard took me to a law school in Mecca. Now, I didn't go inside.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to tell you why, God, because I was intimidated.
Okay, add on about that, because I got a story about that too, though.
Because I was young, and here it is. I'm still fresh to this. In my mind, I'm new to this.
Right.
I'm still trying to master the little bit that I know.
Right.
So to actually be here in front of the school, God, it was like I didn't know what to say. I didn't know. I didn't have the courage at that time to walk in that door and say peace and just stand on what I knew. Because I thought at that time, like, yo,
if you don't know the rest of it, you're gonna get bombed.
Exactly.
Right.
They're gonna bomb me right now.
Right,
I'm just gonna stand here and I'm gonna look at the flag on the window.
Right.
And then I'm gonna bounce. But when I'm standing there, God, the first person I met was Law.
Remember the perfection.
He was coming out to school, God, and I remember he had a leather jacket on. He always wore those Kango hats. Had a little Kango hat on with his little specs. Remember, he had the little specs on. And he seen me looking at the school. He said, peace. And I looked at him and then looked away. And I'm thinking he's looking past me. He's talking to somebody behind me. So I looked. And then the only ones there is me and Angry God and a couple of friends. So he said it again, peace. I said, peace. And what's your name? And this and that. So that's how I met Law. And every time I would come to New York after that, I would look for Law. So the little bit that I knew, I would come here and I could use it with Law, build with him.
Law had more of a welcoming personality.
He didn't have that,
right,
he was more like peace, and
you
know,
right.
Remind me of Bobby Womack when I look at him with them glasses.
Right.
And we reconnected after I got out of the feds too. So remember the perfection. Love the God. I got a lot of love for that God. But now, after meeting him in 1990, I got Angry God around me he learning the same time I'm learning.
So Angry. So cause that's how I was gonna ask you about this name, Angry God. Like, why is he Angry God? Why God? Why you angry? You know what I'm saying? Like, and so he was still learning at the time.
At the time, he was learning. Same time I was learning.
He was the same degree as you?
Now, Cypher, he's 3 years younger than me.
3 years younger?
Yeah, he's 3 years younger than me. And his older cousin Superior is the same age as me. That's the one he was coming to Cali with.
Okay.
He was the younger cousin.
Okay.
So me and Superior were tight, but now me and Angry God get tight. He wasn't Angry God at the time.
Okay.
But he earned that name because that's his personality. He always
angry. Oh, okay. So this is like a
even when he's not, people say, "Yo, why your man so angry?" Because that's the look on his face.
Right.
So everybody say, "Yo, Angry God." They started calling him Angry God.
So this is a nickname that he earned.
He earned that name off his personality. Where his actual name is God Star Mel.
God Star Mel. Okay.
That's his actual name, but we call him. I know a couple of them too, and this is one of them. Peace. And this is one of them, God Star Mel. So that became Angry God is like his, just amongst the the intimate few that grew up with him. You know what I'm saying? We call him Angry God because he's still like that till this day.
So you in contact with him? Right.
That's who I'm staying with right now.
Oh, okay, Angry God.
Yeah.
Okay. You gonna tell peace of the God?
Yeah, that's who I stay with,
dog. And God Star Mel.
Yeah, because we did this shit. I known him since he was knowledge. I was knowledge coaching.
Oh, we.
You know what I'm saying? I practically raised him in this while I was learning.
Right.
And then when I went to the feds, he still was, studying and adding on like I was while I was in there.
Right.
So that's how we did that.
Well, that's peace, God, that you had like a support system over there, because God, that's far away from the root. And a lot of times, like brothers who are away from the root, they wind up getting it all shaky and whatnot, and But you know, you made sure that you stayed in tune with the root, but at the same time, you
back over there,
yeah,
dealing with the coach over there.
Right.
And I was seeing people die when I was going back, God. After my first time coming to Now Why, I didn't come back until 1992. I came 1990 for the first time. I didn't come back until summer of 92. And those 2 years back in Cali, I was in touch with Umar. I'd call him every now and then. When you coming back out here, God, you teaching, God? Keep teaching, God.
Right, peace.
And my friends was dying, God. And they was getting killed by dudes in their same set. I got 2 close friends I went to high school with, God, from 2 different blood sets. They were both killed by dudes from their same blood set. Over little minor arguments like gambling and shit, like playing dice, shooting dice, and they arguing over money. And one of my friends got killed in the car. He was arguing with the dude over a dice game, and the dude said, "Oh yeah, everything's cool." They getting in the car, taking him home, shot him in the car, and pushed his body out on the freeway. God.
Oh shit.
On the freeway, a close personal friend of mine, man, from high school, football star and everything, but he was gangbanging too. Got killed on the way home, God, and pushed him out on the freeway, God. So things like that, and then at the same time, I'm coming here, I'm learning more. It was a no-brainer. I'm sticking with this. That's death. This is life.
Peace.
Peace, God. That's what it was.
Right. Keep you grounded. Something keep you grounded.
This is life. That's death over there, and I'm amongst the death was everywhere, God. I got cousins that I used to be in the car with, God, that was, they like 4 or 5 years older than me. I'd be riding around with them. This is when I was just starting to get supreme mathematics, God. And I'm riding around with them, and they got guns in the car. And God, we could be going somewhere, and they would stop it. If they seen a rival, I'm in the car with them, God. We just supposed to be going to the store or to the mall or something. They would stop. This one cousin in particular, he would jump out, God. Handle his business right in front of me, God. Right in front of me, God.
And I was actually fucking with you.
And he never went to prison. Never been shot or nothing, but he was one of the most wildest dudes growing up. Got a career and everything. And to this day, he tells me how he proud of me for staying on the right path. Because he knew, he even said to me at a family reunion, God, like, understanding years ago, I was a bad influence on you, and you didn't even take none of that shit. You didn't follow me. You didn't follow me up in none of that shit. You did your thing. He proud of me for doing that. But he could have easily influenced me to be like him, because he was like a big brother to me. And this is just a cousin. And I'm more proud of him for surviving that bullshit. Peace. I'm more proud of him for surviving that bullshit because he ended up going to the military.
Oh, wow, okay.
He left the gangbanging shit to go to the military. Ended up getting
applying it in a different
learned the trade in the military, God. He learned airplane engine mechanic. Moved to Dallas, working for some I forget one of the airlines, United or something, where he was an airplane engine mechanic. Living in Dallas. He just moved back to Cali, like, understanding years ago. So this is in the late 80s, early 90s when he left to go to the military. He was, I'm talking about gang banging crazy. One of them dudes that would jump out on people and they, where you from? What set you from? He got the ratchet in his hand,
right.
Ready to go.
Now, what was it that, I wonder what it was that sparked him to change his...
Because he could have lost his life, God. I'm going to tell you what it was, because he told me.
Because a lot of brothers don't get that spark, though.
He was one of the ones that got the message. I could lose my life in this shit, even though he was the one that was out there putting in the work. He realized that the work could be put in on him.
He valued his life.
And he said, yo, before I go too far in this shit, let me get the fuck out of here. Before I get my mama house shot up, let me get the fuck out of here. This is a conversation, this is what he told me, God.
Right.
He's, what, 52 now?
Okay.
Just moved back to Cali.
He's older than you. Right.
He's back in Cali. Retired from doing the plane mechanic shit.
Right.
Got a big house. He just lounging. And now we having conversations about that time. And he's telling me, I could have easily put you into that shit. But I told him, I got my own mind. I seen what you was doing. I ain't want that for me. I was more on this. Let me get this. These lessons.
Right.
Knowledge of self. Black man is God. That's what I was on.
Right.
I seen life in that. I seen definitely what they was doing. That was a no-brainer for me. I had it direct in front of me, God. In my family.
Let me ask you, did you have come in contact with Born Law out there?
Now you know the God Born Law is a little older than me too.
Okay.
He was, when I was getting knowledge of self at that time, he was one of the first ones I heard about, being from the West Coast, from California.
Right,
and this is how I found out about him, because he had
He's in LA as well.
Exactly. And he had a record out. He put a hip hop song out back in the day called Freedom Got a Shotgun.
Freedom Got a Shotgun.
Yeah, a lot of people may not know about that, but I know about that.
Okay.
God Born Law, I know about that. And when I heard the song, if you do the knowledge to the song, some of the stuff that he's talking about in the song lets you know, oh, this brother, he got the knowledge. So when I heard that and did the knowledge to who he was and found out he's from the West Coast, I'm like, oh shit, that sparked me. I hadn't even met the God. Just knowing that there was other gods from the West Coast, that sparked me to want to be sharper. The want to be sharper, because now I seen him in the video. Once I seen the song, I ended up seeing that video. He had the crown on and everything. But I never met him in the physical. And the reason why is because I'm in Inglewood. From Inglewood, now I'm back in Paramount. He was on the other side of LA. He was on a totally different side. And then I ended up going to the feds. So I was going 17 years. I was gone years. I was going from 95 to 2012. So that's another reason why I never came in contact with Born Law, because I wasn't even on the West Coast. I wasn't on the streets.
Okay. So when I'm not now looking at the culture then and now, like what do you see the differences? Like what do you see like what's the contrast?
Culture on the West Coast?
Well, yeah, culture on the West Coast, culture here, 5% culture, gang culture. You know what I'm saying? And you know, 85 culture here, like, you know, like just culture overall as, you know, original people.
Alright, let me say this. My first time ever in Now Why, in 1990, I noticed immediately how here there's more, the culture here, people have a tendency more or less to lean towards righteousness and knowledge of self.
And on this side.
On this side.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It has, because this knowledge even came to the streets and took over the gang culture, God, here. The guards came and took over the gang culture in this city, God.
And now why? Yeah.
Took over the gang culture.
Right.
The gang members became righteous. Yeah, they became 5%ers.
Yeah.
So that became the culture here. That replaced the gang culture at that time. Where in Cali, the gang culture was never replaced. It was never replaced. What it did, it got stronger.
Over the years.
It got stronger. And I'm gonna tell you why it got stronger, because it got more ignorant, God. That gave it more power. The level of ignorance that it's on right now is times 10 or what it's 10 times stronger than what it was when I was growing up.
See, that's interesting, because, you know, like, yeah, you're right that guards did take over the culture, or took over, like, you know, gang culture here.
Because a lot of the gang members.
But then there was a reverse of that too. You know what I'm saying? Because there was a lot of brothers that came from the West Coast, that gang culture started coming over here, and brothers who were 5%ers started becoming more, I guess, more to catch more rep.
And that happened while I was in the feds. And I started meeting a lot, being that I was on the on the East Coast in the feds. I would meet a lot of Bloods and Crips from New York, from Now Why. But a lot of these brothers had knowledge of self at one time.
Right.
And that threw me for a loop, God, because remember, I left the streets in '95. So when I left, before I left, I was going back and forth Cali, New York, from 90 to 95. I'd never seen no Bloods in New York. I would come to Now Why to get away from that shit. I'd come to Now Why to get away from the gang culture, God. The Bloods and the Crips.
So what do you think when you...
So now, I'm gonna tell you guys, like I'm meeting them in the feds. I'm meeting dudes from Brooklyn, from Queens, saying that they Bloods. They're naming sets from LA, God. I'm
how?
That's what I'm saying. How are you A-Tray when A-Tray is over off of Western and in between Western and Normandy? I know exactly where that hood is at.
Right.
You can't tell me you from Queen Street Bloods, when Queen Street is in Inglewood. I used to play football against the dudes that was part of Queen Street. I lived on Line. We used to play football. You can't tell me that. So that was throwing me for a loop, God. I'm like, how are you from Queens, but you telling me you from A-Tray Gangster? You an A-Tray Crip? Or you Inglewood family? Like, hold up. You talking to somebody from Inglewood. How you Inglewood family and you from Queens? Or you from Brooklyn? It's like...
And what was the explanation?
Peace, thank you. And they like, oh, well, I got put on by such and such. This dude came from the West Coast, and then I started to get a little history of how the Bloods came to the East Coast, and they say it started in the systems. This is what up north. This is what they tell me, because a lot of people was coming from the up north jails in New York to the feds. So when they was coming into the fed system, that's how I started getting the stories of how the Bloods were starting in the institutions in the state of New York. So that threw me for a loop, God. I'm like, hold up. I'm from Cali. To hear that spoken on the West Coast was crazy to me, God. It just let me know that the devil stay busy. The devil continues daily to teach, God.
Right. So that's why we gotta continue daily. Yeah.
Once I seen that, and I'm still in the system at the time. I'm fresh in the federal system. I wasn't even in there understanding years before I started meeting these brothers. Wow. They saying they gang banging, and they telling me, oh yeah, well I used to be rights. I used to have knowledge of self. And now mind you, God, somebody coming from the West Coast, hearing, like, to me, knowledge of self was synonymous with Now Why growing up. Growing up, God, on the West Coast, it was synonymous to mostly everybody out on the West Coast. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna show and prove it, because anytime you bring a guy from New York, or take me for instance, I used to get teased. Because they used to hear me saying word is bond, and so now they making fun of me. Word is bond, that's that New York shit. When they equated it with New York, they didn't equate it with 5%ers. They didn't equate it with knowledge of self. They equated it with New York. That's
New York shit. Why you bring that New York shit over here?
That's the New York culture to them. When you say word is bond and son and peace, God, that's the New York culture. So don't bring that shit over here. That ain't us. We over here gangbanging, we killing over colors and shit. So to hear that shit in the federal system, God, that New Yorkers were embracing Bloods and Crips, that was the craziest thing to me, God. Because even on the West Coast, we equated New York with the 5%ers, God. We equated New York with 5%ers, God. Mostly the people from New York equated New York with 5%ers. That's how heavy the influence of the 5%ers was in New York, to where even in Cali, we thought that New York was ranked by 5%.
So you said, like you said, thought the whole New York was 5%.
Listen, God, growing up, when I first heard of the knowledge, I thought everybody out here was God. God and earth. Because
You know, it's interesting because, see, I was born and raised out here, and coming up in the streets, there was a lot of 5% in it. Like, there was a lot that was that was on the street that was just, you just hear this, you hear the words like, you know, like from the music.
the language was in the streets. It's embedded in the way of life, just daily, dog.
Definitely was embedded. You know what I'm saying? And that's what really like kind of like attracted me, because I was like, yo, what's that? Like you said, like, you know, you come from like where your old earth, like she was young when Malcolm returned, right?
Right.
So, but Malcolm's message was still in the atmosphere.
Indeed.
And that was the same thing here. Like when I grew up, my family was Christian, so they gravitated more towards Martin Luther King.
Okay.
But then for me, I was like, it's that other man. What he's saying is
Right.
stronger. He talking about turn the other cheek.
Right. This man talking about
fighting back.
Yeah. Protect yourself.
I with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I was like, you want to move? They about to fire up.
Yeah, let's go, dog.
Yeah.
Traveling through different neighborhoods in Cali with the wrong color on, God. But I gotta tell them, nah, I'm righteous. I ain't on that gangbanging shit.
So what was their response when
They would give me a pass, God.
They give you a pass.
They would give me a pass.
Oh, he on that New York shit.
Like, they'll say, oh, no. But a lot of times, some brothers would. It's like, just because a lot of dudes is gangbanging, you had a lot of dudes that had sense that was part of the gangs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That actually were well read. I knew a lot of brothers that was gangbanging that when you stop and talk to them about something that had to do with black empowerment or something like that, anything with the black man being great, they would listen. But most of them wouldn't. But there were a lot of them that would elaborate on certain little incidences. And, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
They would give you a little jewel. Because I got jewels from individuals that was gangbanging too that didn't have knowledge.
Right. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? They may have recommended a book or gave me a quote out of a passage out of a book or something.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Just because you gangbanging don't mean you necessarily stupid.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You guys may have some sense.
Because like I said, God, a lot of people are raised in that. Like they don't have a choice, God. Yet when they in school, I know plenty of gangbangers that was in school, they were playing sports and they were getting A's and B's, God. But when they left the school and they wasn't at practice or on that field, they was putting in work in the hood, in the streets. They was gangbanging.
Right.
And me, having knowledge of self back in Cali, I'm picking up this New York culture. Not only am I a 5%er and I got knowledge of self, I'm picking up ways and terminologies from New York, and I'm taking it back to Cali.
Right.
So now I'm being looked at as a New Yorker, or the fake New York.
The fake New York. I mean, but how did you respond to that though? Like,
I used to laugh it off because I knew that they were only speaking from
that
the limited knowledge that they had about what I was dealing with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like it wasn't like they had the opportunity, or unless they came to me, it wasn't like they were doing the knowledge of these sciences or doing the knowledge of these degrees. So they were speaking from not knowing.
Right.
They didn't know nothing about it. So that gave me the opportunity to teach.
Speak. So you was kind of already in the mind frame of, I'm a minority, but I'm going to still manifest anyway. I'm not going to be drawn up by the majority.
Right, and exactly. I wasn't going to be drawn up by the majority, God. If anything, and I learned young, God, when you around the 85%, if you're not teaching them, get away from them. Because they're going to influence you. They teaching you and you don't even know it.
Ain't that some signs?
I learned that young.
Right.
And that's what kept me grounded, knowing that. If
now,
I ain't teaching, they teaching me.
What are some of the challenges now? Because you got babies now, right?
Right.
So what's your baby's degrees?
Right now they power and my baby girl. She'll be wisdom next month.
Okay, so you haven't really reached that.
But I got a firstborn. He's 29.
You got firstborn, 29 years old.
When
okay.
I left to go to the feds, he was almost 4 years old.
Now, what was that like then?
That was crazy coming home. Now, I had his ear while I was in there. I would talk to him, see him on visits here and there. But coming home, he was an adult, God. He was 20, going on 21 when I came home.
Wow.
So we had no relationship. Because now, this is not a child. It's not a baby. This is a grown man I'm looking at.
Right,
we eye to eye now as far as
right.
physically, height-wise. So I had to get to know him like he had to get to know me.
Yeah, and I know that fuck with you.
It didn't, and it did. Now I'm gonna tell you why it didn't. It didn't initially because it was something I was looking forward to for so long. So when I got a chance to finally get out, damn, I'll be home with my firstborn, I was enthused.
Right.
So the enthusiasm and the hype behind it was everything.
Right,
but then once I was getting to know him and doing the knowledge to him, I'm examining him. He was fucked up, God, mentally. And not to talk bad about him, but I didn't even know the depths of the experiences that he was going through. You know what I'm saying? Because while I'm in there talking to him on the phone, it was 15-minute calls.
15-minute calls, and he's living life, for real.
I couldn't sit there on the phone with him like I could in person for 2 hours and build with him. Really get to the depths of how he feeling and how he see things. Everything is, oh, how you doing? You doing good in school? Or you get that letter I sent you some pictures. All right, well, I'm going to call you next week.
Right.
Every call is real quick. You can't get real intimate and in depth with the conversation.
Right.
Especially when you got a little 5, 6, 7 year old. He's growing up. He's a little kid. He want to go play his video games. He don't want to talk to his dad on the jail phone, on a jail call.
Right.
So that's what I had to deal with.
Right. So when
He
coming
really
home,
didn't understand. So now that he understands it and he's grown, and I'm coming home. God, he held that shit against me.
Oh. So now you're starting to see the real. Yeah.
He held the fact that I wasn't there against me, God, and he told me in words. He didn't show me through his ways and actions. He actually told me that, God. He told me a whole bunch of shit, God. He tried to make me feel this big. He tried to really
bring you down.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Right.
Because I knew where it was coming from.
Right.
He was being honest. However, we got to be mindful of the words we use, God, and how and when we use them.
Right.
Because if me and you grew up together, or we been around each other for so many years, I can say, oh, yo, fuck you, God. You know I'm joking, though.
Right.
As opposed to, yo, fuck. You know what I'm saying? It's energy behind the words, too.
Yeah.
When your own son is looking at you and he's like this, he mean that shit, Where the fuck was you at?
Yeah, I know that could really, that could touch you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and it touched me, but what it did was it said, yo, do the knowledge because this is what you need to hear, God. Because you couldn't get this on the phone calls and on them visits. He was hurting while you was gone. You wasn't there.
Right.
He wasn't telling me no lies because I wasn't there, God.
Yeah. Right.
I wasn't there in the physical.
Right.
So yeah, that shit hurt me, God, and I just had to take that and send him on his way, and told him, "You right," because I jeopardized and I put what me and you were building.
Yeah,
I put that and just threw that away for this bullshit, and I got taken away because of that.
Right.
That whole structure came down because I was taken out of the equation.
Right.
But I'm responsible for that. I did that.
Right.
He reminded me of it, God. He was stern when he reminded me of that. When I was coming home thinking,
it's gonna be all right.
Yeah, I'm home now, and that was my defense to him. Like I hear what you're saying, and you're right. You are right and exact. I should have did that. I paid for it, but I'm here now. I corrected that error.
Right. But there still was some layers of pain that he was still dealing with.
And I had to let him get that off, God.
Right.
Because this is a grown man now.
Yeah.
He can express himself. He can. All them 17 years I was gone.
17.
even though we were in touch and he saw me and there's letters, and it's nothing like having your physical father there, God. So I had to take that and absorb that, God. And till this day, me and him really don't even talk.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask you, were you able to rebuild that?
And the reason why is because I humbled myself too much, God. And when I should have been more stern, after he got that off, I just fell back. I fell back initially when he did that.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Let me take all that in and let me let him settle with that. I'm just coming back into his life. Let me ease in. Because I tried to come back like, yo, let's go. I'm here.
Yeah. He was like, nah. He was like,
where he was a little more apprehensive. I was forcing his hand.
Right.
So I said, you know what? I started to do the knowledge and said, you know what? I need to pump the brakes because I'm intruding this man's life. He really don't even need me right now.
Right.
He's grown, and his attitude, he's showing me he don't need me right now.
Right.
So let me back up. Let him know I'm still here.
Yeah.
Hit me when you need.
If Mega did this.